It's time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake. Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again. This will be settled right at the end. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PSGL, round number 2 of the season. And after the grid got an absolute soaking in Portugal, they'll be hoping for a bit sunnier weather tonight. Although they might not be guaranteed it if F2 is to anything to go by. This is Silverstone, the home of the very first Formula 1 race, home of the British Grand Prix. My name is Luke Etheridge. Joining me in the commentary box is Aidan Carter. And Aidan, it's fair to say the drivers will be hoping for a more straightforward race than what we got last week.
Yeah, definitely. I think last time out at Portimao was not the easiest way to start off a season. Was it quite difficult conditions as well? Difficult to overtake around Portimao at the best of times, and making it wet was all that more challenging. It was, I would say, a fairly interesting race nonetheless, but I don't think it's a good read really on what the true order is for the season. So I think there's still a lot that we're going to learn tonight.
Yeah, certainly. If you cast your mind back to last week, it was Isma who took his first ever win in the top tier, doing an absolutely brilliant job from him to take the victory, getting past Max Wiesel, who qualified on pole. Max ending up finishing in second place. Third place was Dan Aiko. Matthew Alder was in fourth. Fede in fifth. Fusilio getting ahead of Suku on the final lap. Those finishing 6th and 7th. And then Farby, Jensen and Brock rounding out the rest of the points. And in the Constructors' Championship, Williams on top of the moment, 1 point ahead of Ferrari. Alfa Romeo, McLaren, Alpine yet to score, but still, obviously, very early days in that. And Isma did a brilliant job last time out. It was all about the qualifying, though. Exceptionally difficult to overtake in the conditions that we saw last week.
Yeah, really, really difficult. Like you say, we only saw that one overtake really for the lead of the race, and beyond that, we didn't really see much, did we? It was so difficult. Suku obviously doing a brilliant job in the race of being able to hold that 6th position right until the final lap of the race, and that was really kind of the only on-track overtaking action we had in that race that wasn't mistake triggered. Of course, the lead of the race was lost by Max, mainly because he made a mistake and Isma was close enough to capitalise. So yeah, really, really difficult last time out, but around a track like Silverstone, it should be a lot easier to overtake.
Yeah, definitely should be a lot easier. As we've said, though, that is assuming that we don't get the heavy rain storm conditions, in fact, that it was last time around. A few drivers that'll be looking for better races. I know Zander in the Alfa Romeo was the first person to retire from the session. He's gonna have a difficult job of it tonight. Did get a qualifying ban for blocking, I believe it was Eagle or Hadler, as some of you might know him, in the qualifying session last time around. Luckily for him, though, as you've already said, you can overtake around Silverstone. In the dry, it is a very straightforward one-stop strategy. Despite being such a hard, high-speed circuit, because Pirelli do bring their hardest tyres, tyre wear's never really an issue around here, and anyone who starts on the mediums and has a bad first lap, they can go up to well in towards the mid-20 laps worth into the race and just hope for that late safety car.
Yeah, there's really kind of a lot that you can play with really around strategy here, isn't there? The tyres, like you say, they don't wear off for a track that's so high speed with so many fast corners. You kind of would expect a track like this to have high tyre wear, and it does really in real life. We see punctures all the time in a Silverstone race, but on the game it doesn't really translate that way. It's very easy to manage the tyres. So yeah, you can see people on the mediums going into the 20s hoping for that late safety car. Likewise, you can see them pitting about halfway through the race and putting on the softs and doing half the race on a set of soft compound tyres. They're just as good. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think the key is going to be timing that one right and possibly getting lucky at some point in the race.
Yeah, I think it is that bit of luck that you need. We'll have to wait and see if drivers can do that. And obviously, drivers that did perform as well last week. Top 3, Isma, Max Vissel, Danielko. It was all decided in that, what was still a dry qualifying session, so I suppose we can take something about the pace on that. But Fede and Fusilio, I think especially Fede, he seemed to be one of the few drivers that was able to make his way through the field in that race.
Yeah, one of the only ones really, like you say, that could make any progress, which was interesting to see. You would have expected maybe some other people to have stronger races, and they couldn't really do so. I think a prime example of that was Brock. He seemed to have really, really good pace when he was in clean air, and then as soon as he would catch somebody, he just couldn't really go anywhere with it. So, yeah, it was really, really difficult for some people unless you'd somehow compromise your setup in a way to make you fast enough in a straight line to challenge. So, yeah, we'll see if Fede can continue it on. I think that was his best result, I think, in PSGL last week, that up to this date. So yeah, we'll see if he can continue that momentum.
Yeah, certainly. You can see the calendar there for the rest of the season. Silverstone tonight, Monaco next week. Pretty much the complete polar opposite of a circuit to Silverstone. France the week after on Valentine's Day. I don't know if the drivers will be loving that or not. And then we've got a break. Hungary, Austria, Saudi Arabia, Belgium, Netherlands, Brazil, Mexico, Singapore, USA, Italy, and then the season ending in Bahrain. Still, like we said, it's still extremely early days in the season, and with Silverstone has got some of those high-speed corners, not too many similarities to Portugal. Monaco, as we've already spoke about, that is a track really on its own. Nothing we can, no track on the calendar like Monaco, and then France being quite a unique layout with the amount of runoff area. So still early days. How far into the season do you think we'll get before we can get a true picture on which drivers will be challenging for the championship?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? It's really, really difficult to say. I would probably say by the time we get to maybe Austria, I would say we probably know who the front runners are. Austria is a fairly simple track for everybody. It's a track that everyone knows very, very well. That one's going to be very close. Same as Britain here as well. France is another one as well that can be quite close throughout the field. A little bit more tyre management around France, but that's where you can see kind of people's racecraft come into play and who's got the better racecraft throughout the race. Maybe not the fastest, but the smartest in that race. So I would say by the time we get to around round 6 or so, we should know relatively who the front runners are.
Yeah, I think certainly by that point you'd have expected some, well, at least 2 or 3 drivers to be maybe showing themselves at the front of the field. Who knows? I might see Isma go on a bit of a dominant run, and it could be earlier than that. But we'll have to wait to see. Qualifying just about to begin, so we'll quickly show you what the track map is, of course. Famous Silverstone circuit, 5.891 kilometres, 3.660 miles, 18 turns, actually a lower average speed than what it used to be. Back in the 1980s, this was the highest average speed of any circuit on the calendar, even surpassing Monza. I think Keke Rosberg did the first ever 160 mile per hour average speed qualifying lap around here in the mid-1980s, which seems absolutely crazy. This new loop section that was added mainly to improve the facilities at Silverstone does provide a bit more overtaking opportunities, once into the loop and one down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were quite skeptical about the introduction, of course, of that section when it came in. 2010 was the first year we used that new Village in the Loop section, of course, because the Abbey chicane and then the bridge corner was so popular. I think a lot of people were worried that it was going to kill off some of the great racing we've had here in the past, but if anything, it has improved it. Like you say, it's a new overtaking opportunity into Village. We've got a brand new straight that they can all challenge down the Wellington Straight now, and of course lap 1 as well. Village in the Loop is a great overtaking spot for lap 1 as well, when it can often spring a surprise. It can spring some different moments in real life races as well. Of course, we've seen many a moment happen at Village, aka Lewis Hamilton spinning in 2018 off the front of Kimi Raikkonen's car. So yeah, I think the new section, while a lot of people were skeptical when it first came in, has added a new sense of dynamics to the races.
Yeah, certainly. As you can see, we are heading in, well, we're in qualifying now. Things looking very quiet out there at the moment. Drivers clearly feeling like they can leave it fairly late. One of the Red Bulls just starting to head out the pit lane, and I think that might have been an Alpine heading out on track, and that is Shizu Ogiano, one of the drivers who wasn't here last week. I can tell you now, we're not expecting any rain. Well, it says it's going to be overcast in qualifying, but at one point, rain expected does pop over 50%, so I wonder whether we are going to get some rain later on in this qualifying, but we are expecting some in this race. Round about the 30-minute point, possibly, well, between 15 and 30 minutes, we are going to get some rain. So that says to me we might see a lot of drivers maybe taking a risk on the soft tyres, even if they start outside the top 10.
Yeah, I think definitely so. I think a lot of people are going to be having to try that, aren't they, if the rain is coming that far into the race. So they're going to have to take that strategy. If that is the case, we'll wait and see if that one if that does play out like that, of course, and of course an overcast qualifying as well isn't really what these drivers wanted at all. I think they would have wanted a nice, very, very sunny track. I think overcast conditions can be quite distracting sometimes. It can kind of take away a little bit of confidence in these conditions. So, yeah, again, the weather could be springing a surprise for the second week in a row.
Yeah, it looks like we are. But at least this time we're not going to have the storm conditions, so we should see a bit more on-track action. And I imagine once they do put on a set of intermediate tyres, we're not going to have any need for the full wets. I know last week a couple of drivers did risk the intermediate tyres and very quickly realised it was not the way to go. So the track started to fill out a bit more. We're on board then with Shizu Oggiano. Did race here last season in the top tier. Failed to finish, unfortunately for him. He'll be hoping to get his season underway, just taking it nice and slow through the Vale chicane and then coming round through Club to start a hot lap around this circuit, heading down the Abbey Straight. This is where the pit straight used to be back in the very first race before it moved to Corps, heading through Abbey now and into Farm, flat out through there, stick to the left hand side of the track as you brake hard into Village. Fourth gear through there, some drivers may choose to go slightly lower gears and then into the loop section, not really challenging the apex too much there. You just see the Alpine running ever so slightly wide. Flat out through Aintree. DRS open. Zander retiring from that qualifying ban as we now go down the Wellington Straight, braking just after the 50-metre board. This long apex left-hander does allow cars to fight side by side all the way through there and through Luffield as well, where we will see many varied lines through the race as you try to get your best possible run through Woodcut, cutting that corner as much as you dare, and then coming up to Copse Corner, where it's not advised to stick a wheel down the inside. Coming through Copse again, not really hitting that curve, but still carrying a lot of speed through Copse, and now one of the scariest, well, best sections in a Formula 1 car. Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, full commitment needed through there, only braking for Chapel, onto the brake slightly, just running onto the grass a bit. You'll see most of the drivers doing that. So we now come down the Hanger Straight, scene of that famous PK Mansell battle 35 years ago. Into Stowe Corner now, fifth gear, not the best overtaking opportunity, even though it is at the end of a DRS zone. And if drivers do battle there, you'll probably see them fighting all the way through Vale and maybe into Club as well, as Oggiano comes around the final corner. Club 2 finishes lap time, and it is going to be a 1:26.1 from the Alpine driver to get us underway. That's only about 2/10 of a second of what we saw pole position in F3 and about 4/10 of what we saw pole last season in F1. So a very good first lap there from Oggiano, and I feel like he's definitely got some time in hand.
Yeah, a little bit more time in hand, you've got to say. It's a solid banker run in the session, so something to build off of definitely as TF1 Hamilton goes in just 2/10 slower at the moment. Fastest man on the track, it seems, at the moment is Matthew Older on a run at the moment, a little bit further around the track as Isma now crosses the line to go 1/10 of a second clear at the top of the timesheets. Once again, Isma right at the front of the field. Oggiano still holding that second position. Cornet's just gone fourth in the Aston Martin as well. So, yeah, time's coming in thick and fast now, but Matthew Older, it seems like fastest first sector, I think, for Matthew Older on this one. Max Wiesel pole sitter last time out, back onto provisional pole in this race as well. It's Max and Isma once again, early phases of the qualifying session right at the front.
Yeah, clearly continuing that good form that they won last time around then. We are now on board with Matthew Older just to see what he can do at this final point. He's gone quite low on fuel, so going for it early on. His teammate has gone for the mediums, and this might be a theme. If it rains at the start of when we're expecting it to do, you'll be better off on the soft tyres. If it rains near the end, you will need the mediums as Matthew Older heads round the final corner and does go fastest by 29 thousandths of a second. 1:25.960 for the Red Bull driver, who finished second here last season behind Joost, and it was his teammate for this season, Ardapel Gamer, who finished in third position. So looking good for the Red Bull boys if they can continue their form from last time around. Fusilio heading around the final few corners now. He'll be hoping tonight he does not get stuck behind anyone, because he was definitely, well, at least he can't get stuck behind Suko again in the Haas.
Yeah, at least he's not going to be soaked at the back of that car once again. He'll be hoping that it's not Gil in place this time around. But up to P6 after his opening run, not too bad of a time for him so far. But you've got to say, yeah, he was probably one of the fastest drivers in the intermediate conditions, but just couldn't do anything with it. He had a great start to the race and gained a few places in the opening laps, and then really went nowhere until the very last lap of the race. So, yeah, he'll be hoping that he's made the majority of the moves he can make before the weather comes down and interferes with his race once again.
Yeah, he'll be hoping for a good performance. If you want to see how your driver's doing, !help in the chat. I've put the commands in for you, and you can use the task system to help yourself out. Jakita goes into 10th place at the moment, just over 4/10 of a second off of pole position. And with the majority of the field having done their first one, it is Matthew Older, Max Wiesel, Isma Asacombe and Ogiano, your top 5 drivers. I think we've just seen Brock go up into the 9th on his second run. That is a common theme. Fastest first sector for Max Wissel, fastest second and third sectors currently for Matthew Older. So he's showing off some pretty good pace. Jensen in an outlap at the moment. He had a pretty reasonably good debut, you've got to say. Finished in 9th position. Nothing spectacular, but I think himself and Brock as well as reserves definitely happy with just getting a solid start to the season in.
Yeah, definitely a solid start, like you say. Obviously not the conditions they would have wanted to work their way forwards. Jensen had a strong qualifying and fell back early on, didn't he? But recovered quite a few of those positions back towards the end. So, yeah, he had a solid debut, you've got to say. Points on the board on your debut as a reserve driver in the top tier of PSGL is definitely a great way to start. So we'll wait and see how they can continue on in this one. Brock currently at the moment in 9th position, like I said, on that second run, and Jensen had a spin at the end of the Maggots and Beckett's complex on his first one. I was on board with him at the time, so just touched the grass on the outside coming through Chapel and lost the car. So yeah, we'll see what he can do on his next one in the session. And I think it's fair to say a running theme tonight is going to be how close this qualifying session is. I think every time we come to Silverstone, the qualifying sessions are ridiculously close. And yet again, that's looking like it could be the case.
Yeah, it always seems where you get the biggest gaps between drivers are where there's long circuits and lots of low-speed corners. Silverstone, apart from the village, and you could argue Luffield, I can't really say there's too many low-speed corners around this circuit, all extremely high speed. So Jensen's going to be one of the first drivers to get a second attempt in then with 10 minutes remaining. Looking good for Matthew Older still at the top of the timing sheets. Dan Erko did a 1:26.789. He was the fastest man to do a lap on the set on medium tyres. I think, like Benjamin, like Ardapel Gamer, he'll be going for a second attempt on that set of the soft tyres. Expect the drivers at the start on a set of the soft tyres to pit round about lap 10 or 11. Might try to stretch it slightly longer depending on when Jeff says the rain's going to come. I think anyone who starts on the set of medium tyres will wait until the rain does come. So this could be an interesting strategy, starting in the top 10 on a set of the soft tyres. If the rain's going to come late on, we might see drivers doing soft in that stint. And what is going to play a part in this race, and we haven't spoke about yet, is the length of the pit lane. It is exceptionally long. If you can avoid it, you're going to want to hold out your first set of dry tyres until the rain comes, because making a second pit stop is going to put you at a massive disadvantage. We're talking 25 to 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a really, really big loss, isn't it? It's not that long a pit lane in terms of actual distance, but they obviously limited the speed limit to down 37 around this track because you don't want people cutting the last 2 chicanes and getting a faster lap by crossing the line through the pit lane, which is why it feels so excruciatingly slow, the pit lane around here. So yeah, that second pit stop, beyond the fact that the tyres don't really drop off in performance here, it would be a really, really long pit stop as well, as Jensen's just coming around the final corner, clatters the curb on the inside of the final corner, goes P7 on his first proper run in the session, a 26.2, not a bad lap on the board, but we're still yet to see the best, of course, from him and from the other drivers around him. So we'll see as other people improve whether he stays in 7th or whether he falls down the order a little bit. But yeah, like you were saying, that second pit stop, really, really crucial around here. You want to avoid that as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, certainly. His teammate, Jensen's teammate, will be hoping to avoid the curb at the exit of Club, because that was a brilliant lap from Ogiano. 2,000ths of a second behind Matthew Older there. Great job done by the Alpine car. Cornet's just come in around the final couple of corners now in the Aston Martin. Finished in 13th place. Of course, had that wheel issue, I believe, last time out, and a bit of damage, so didn't get a chance to show what he can do. Otherwise, he'd have had a chance of getting some points. He moves up the order into 5th place for now. Fastest of everyone, in fact, in that final sector. Isma's improving ever so slightly. 37,000ths of a second at the moment. Purple in Sector 1. Not even a personal best in Sector 2. What can Isma do for the final corner? Goes fastest of everyone by 13,000ths of a second. Definitely carrying that form on from last week. Asacombe showing an improvement as well. And I've got to say about Max Wissel, he's had a bit of a problem. All his setups have disappeared from the game, and that includes his wheel configuration as well. So it's going to be a tough race for Max, just trying to get used to, possibly for one night only, a new wheel setup.
Yeah, that is a really, really weird glitch, isn't it? I think new ones keep popping up left, right and centre, but that is a very, very weird problem to have for Max Wissel. He's still got solid pace despite that. He just invalidated coming through Chapel when he was 700ths of a second up, so that would have put him back onto provisional pole if he could have maintained that in the final sector, but of course the invalidation has put him off of that for the time being. Matthew Alder's on another run at the moment. Fastest in the first sector, but not a personal best in the middle, but only by 0.02 of a second. So not really much time lost at all in the middle part of the lap. Can he get a fast final sector in to retake the provisional pole position? Then only 13 thousandths in it at the moment, crosses the line, and he's the first one into the 0.8s then. He finds, well, nearly a 10th in that final sector. That's a brilliant final sector there from him, and he goes back onto provisional pole by just over a 10th for the rest of the field.
Yeah, great job from Matthew Alder then. Pole position for now, but still plenty of time to go. Still a lot of drivers looking to show some improvements. Fusilio's actually gone fastest, well, the personal best for him in that middle sector. Faster than what we've seen a lot of the drivers do, even though it was showing up purple on the track map. Was not quite a purple time. Stays to that right-hand side. We know the alternate strategy, depending on when the rain comes, might just be the one to be on around here. So 11th place could be very handy indeed, and that is currently occupied by Jensen. Fusilio heads towards the line, does find a bit more time for him, gets himself up into 7th. Brock, a quarter of a second up then, as he comes through Stowe, getting very close to seeing some invalidations through there, and expect to see plenty of side-by-side action, especially at the start of the race, through Stowe. I said it's not the easiest of overtaking opportunities, but it does allow you, through that corner, to carry a move on through Vale, and sometimes into Club as well. I've seen moves carry on almost, well, and occasionally, including going side-by-side through Abbey, which is definitely a sight to see.
Yeah, it definitely is a sight to see, isn't it? But that's one great thing about this track, is that you can race really aggressively here with another driver, and there's plenty of space to go side by side. There's plenty of corners where you can get moves done as well. It's one of those tracks where they've kind of got the balance perfectly, haven't they? It's not an easy DRS pass around pretty much the majority of this track. You can't breeze past someone on a long straight. But you can still, there's still plenty of overtaking opportunities. It's just about having good wheel-to-wheel battles, which is why this track is probably such a favourite amongst drivers, because you can race side by side around this track for quite a lot of the layouts. So yeah, racing-wise, is definitely up there as one of the best. Yeah, certainly. We're just seeing a TF1 Hamilton making his debut in the series tonight. The Venezuelan driver, his first time appearing in the, I believe, in any PSGL tier, but certainly in the top tier here on the PlayStation platform. 9th place at the moment, and I don't think he did actually go out on a second run, or maybe not going out on a bit of an earlier run, so he's got a chance here of setting some good times. Coming out early on, clearly just to try and avoid any traffic on his run and give himself a chance of setting a second run on that set of tyres, if he so wishes to do so. But it is Matthew Alder fastest at the moment. Isma in second, 0.111 seconds behind the Red Bull. Oggiano in third, Ascombe in fourth, Max Wiesel in fifth. All those drivers on a 125.9 at the moment, and it's as exceptionally close as you'd expect it to be. 0.2 seconds between Isma in second place and Fede in 11th. Yeah, really, really close, like you say, in second through fifth, separated by just under half a second, I believe. So, yeah, really close between the drivers at the front of the field, and even in the mid-pack as well. I mean, look at the gap between Hamilton currently in 9th position and Fabi down in 14th. That's just over a 10th of a second between those 6 drivers as well. So, throughout the field, it is really close. You've got to say and we're still yet to see really competitive soft runs from Denerco and Odapo as well. They're still at the back of the field on their medium runs. So, still 2 more drivers to really set their best runs, as Hamilton now is on a run, but he goes just a little bit wide there through the loop. Yeah, just a bit deep, and you can see how that really compromised his run into the loop. See if this is actually going to be an improvement for him. Still going on, and I think he's actually backed off of this lap. Probably wise to do, and that's the thing. If you go a bit earlier on, you do give yourself that extra bit of time. Jensen in 12th place at the moment. He's going to could well be the first man to finish this qualifying session. 2 minutes 45 seconds remaining as the clock disappears to the many yellow flags. Drivers now starting to come out the pit lane, now starting to try and find themselves a bit of space. And this could be the one risk if you do go out on an earlier lap. You could get caught up in a world's most expensive car park coming through Vale. Yeah, you really could. I think one of the Aston Martins, Denerco, has just started his run, and he's backed off straight away coming through turn number 1. So he's immediately backed off of that run. So just proving your point straight away, he didn't get through the first 2 corners without being impeded by the looks of things. So he's already had to back off and wait to go again on the same set of tyres. Jensen's lucky in a sense that he got out just before all the traffic came out of the pit lane. So he's safe somewhat on his lap at the moment. We'll see him through the second sector split, see what kind of time he is doing. Like you say, currently 12th on the grid at the moment. Personal best in the first sector, but a poor middle sector. It's not competitive, and he's backed off. Yeah, just went a bit too deep coming through Chapel. Definitely still one of the best sequences to see a Formula 1 car going through. I think because over the years, Eau Rouge, Blanchimont,
130 are, yes, they're still extremely challenging for the likes of you and I, but for a professional Formula 1 driver, no problem whatsoever. Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell, you've really tested the car and tested the driver's commitment. And as we've seen over the years, as we saw this year with Sergio Perez, if you get it slightly wrong, it becomes very wrong very quickly.
Yeah, really, really does. It's a corner that bites you, isn't it? It's right on the limit. It's a really, really rewarding corner, but if you get it wrong, there's no room really for error. There's barriers close in and around. You lose so much time as well, and because it's such a high-speed corner, even a slight mistake, you lose so much momentum for the rest of the straight that you can get easily pounced on if you do make that mistake. So, yeah, it rewards those that are brave, and it punishes those that are brave but maybe not committed enough.
Yeah, a lot of drivers not improving on their first runs here at the end of the session. We're seeing H-Eagle on board with him now. He's still pushing, despite being down by 6 thousandths of a second at the moment. Neither here or there, really. You're talking at these speeds, probably a few millimetres. Exceptionally close indeed. He now throws the car through Chappell, taking a lot more curb than Jensen, getting very close there to invalidating his lap, but he's still green at the moment, still up by about a tenth of a second. Needs to find a bit more time though. If he wants to get up to Jacques Eaton, needs to find plenty of more time if he wants to drag this Haas up into the top 10. Looked like he had a battle full of understeer. Oh! Very close to what would have been a massive crash into the back of Lars. I can't imagine he's going to be too happy about that one.
No, not at all. I was thinking it, the traffic in that final sector as everyone was backing off for their final runs, and Lars just kind of dawdling on the racing line there in the middle of the final corner. Nothing Eagle could have done to avoid that, and that is his qualifying over and done with. So, yeah, I fear that that's probably some hefty penalty maybe coming Lars's way for the next round.
Yes, certainly. We had a crash at Cops, and I believe that is Arda Palgamer who's gone off at the exit of Cops, the Red Bull in the wall at Cops, thankfully. I imagine quite a lot less contentious than the last time we saw a Red Bull in the wall at Cops. Checkered flag is out of this session. Ogiano's got up into second. Hamilton in third. At this moment in time, we are on board with Asacombe. He's improving at the moment. He's just gone personal best in that middle sector, but so has Matthew Older. He goes even faster. 1:25.791. Fastest of everyone then, and I think it's going to need some big improvements from drivers to really challenge him. Asacombe then through the final couple of corners at AlphaTauri, looking very dirty indeed. Philip Volters shoves his car up into second. Great job by the Williams driver. Asacombe goes up into fifth. No one looks to be improving by massive margins at this moment in time. Dan Urco through the final part of the lap. He can only go up into 14th. The man who got pole position last time around. Fabi in the Ferrari comes around the final corner. He gets into 11th. That could be a very handy position to be indeed. We have got a Haas coming through, I believe. That'll be Gill, still finding improvement. The former F1 champion heads towards the line, backs off slightly in the end, stays in 14th. Lars goes up into 9th place. Both McLarens getting up into the top 10. Brock, of course, reserving for Casper, who has tested positive for COVID, unfortunately, so we do wish him well. That looks like it is qualifying over, though, in terms of the hot laps, and it is Matthew Older, fastest of everyone.
Yeah, fast as everyone. He looked really not in doubt, did it, throughout the session. But the interesting thing is Matthew Older, on pole position, doesn't have a purple sector to his name. That is really, really interesting to see that Matthew Older's put it on pole position with that good of a time throughout all three sectors. And that's the thing around Silverstone. You've got to be able to keep up the momentum for the full lap. Wouters fastest in the middle, Shazoo Brock in 7th, fastest first sector of anybody, and Asacombe the fastest in the last. But yeah, looks like Matthew Older more consistent throughout the entire lap and is able to pull that full lap together.
Yeah, quite a different grid lineup as well to last time out. Ogiano and Hamilton obviously weren't here. Philip Volters was a bit further back down towards the midfield, and the top three from last qualifying, Max Wiesel qualifying 8th, Isma qualifying 6th, and Danerco qualifying down in 16th. But even Danerco is less than half a second off pole position. Exceptionally close in here. Arda Palgamer, he's going to have a tough job. I know with different things with uni, he's not getting a chance to practice as much as he'd like. He's going to find it quite difficult starting down in 19th, and he still, I don't believe, actually managed to set any time on the softs.
No, he hasn't. No, he unfortunately crashed on that final run, but he'll be hoping that the rain that is coming its way will be coming later on in the race so that he can start on the mediums and be on the better strategy.
Yes, he certainly will. His teammate will be hoping, if the rain does come, that it comes quite early on, so the softs turn out to be the right choice. It is Matthew Older on pole position, Philip Volters in second, Shazoo Ogiano just 3 thousandths of a second ahead of Hamilton, who starts 4th. Asacombe is 5th. Isma, last week's race winner, is in 6th. Brock, Max Wiesel, Lars and Cornet round out the top 10. Fusilio will be starting on whatever set of tyres he so chooses in 11th, as well Fabi Fede, Jensen, Giel, Danirko, Shakita, H-Eagle, Ardpel Gamer, who didn't do a lap on the softs, and Xander, thanks to a qualifying lap, qualifying ban, didn't do a lap at all. That is the grid then. 26 laps coming ahead of us. It's going to be, I think it's going to be, normally we see in a lot of races, first few laps of the race, obviously there's plenty of action on lap 1, then things calm down a tiny bit, and then after the pit stops, everything goes crazy again. I think a lot of the drivers are going to be thinking, if the rain's going to come, we need to go crazy a bit earlier on and get the moves done while the DRS is active, because as we saw in Portugal, once it starts raining, once you lose the DRS, overtaking just takes up another level of difficulty.
Yeah, it really, really does. Like you say, it's fairly difficult to overtake in a train around this track anyway at the best of times, but like you say, is everybody trying to ramp up, ready for the race, making sure that they can get those moves done before the intermediate tyres are put on. They are, going to have to try and get those moves done as early as possible. And for those that maybe are thinking about starting on the medium compound tyres, they are just going to be hoping that they can sit in the train and hope that the soft runners can't get to that wet weather conditions. So I feel like the top 10 is going to be very, very frantic in the opening couple of laps to try and gain as many places as they can before the DRS is enabled. And then once it's enabled, I'm sure we're going to see people maybe working as teams if the teams are close enough to the front. Maybe Philip Wouters and Isma might work together in the Williams in this one. But I suspect that we may see a lot of side-by-side battles in the early parts of this race.
Yes, certainly. I think as we've seen in the real world, as we've seen time and time again, countless times in esports, that run down the Wellington Straight through Brooklands and through Loffield does encourage drivers to go side by side all the way up to Corps, and then whether they choose to back out or not is completely their prerogative. Around the Silverstone circuit on the borders of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, 5.891 kilometres, 3.660 miles with those 2 DRS zones down the Wellington Straight and the Hanger Straight, and they'll be starting, of course, on the Hamilton Straight, as it was renamed ahead of this season. Looking at the tyres everyone has gone for, it is Benjamin Ardapal Gamer who's gone for something different, starting on a fresh set of soft tyres. He'll be hoping he can make his moves early on in the race. Everyone else thinking, well, if it's not going to be until lap 10, lap 11 at the earliest when we're going to see the rain, might be worth just going on for those mediums, because at least we can stretch them that bit longer, a bit easier.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier. It takes a little bit of stress out. And like we mentioned earlier on, of course, the mediums aren't a bad tyre around here at all. You're not going to see that big pace dividend between the softs and the mediums that you see at other tracks. So it'll be a lot easier for the likes of Fusilio and Fabi to cling onto the back of the soft runners around this track. And of course, there's no guarantee with the rain coming down that we do actually switch to the intermediate tyres, of course. It can rain, but not rain hard enough to put those tyres on. So there's always that bet that they may not actually ever get off of these compounder tyres. And if they don't, then those on the mediums could be in a better spot when the rain comes down, because those on the more worn tyres are going to have far less grip.
Yeah, certainly. It's a very difficult place to be as a driver. I've had it in races before. I've done an entire race in wet conditions, as in it's raining and it's not been wet enough for the intermediate tyres. It's not been wet enough to deactivate DRS. You just find yourself sliding around every corner. These drivers, I imagine, will manage to do that quite a lot more successfully than I did, though. Fusilio and Farby, they'll be hoping that the rain does come heavy enough, just as their mediums are starting to wear out. Matthew Alder and Philip Walters might be hoping that it stays dry whatsoever. Great qualifying by Walters, a man who has finished in the top 3, let's not forget, in PSGL. I believe it was season 27 where Sparks, Wilson Hughes, took the championship. It was great to see him returning to form.
Yeah, really, really nice to see, of course. Didn't have the best of rounds last time out in Portimao, but as we've mentioned a couple of times already, a poor qualifying in Portimao really, really cost you big time in the race because of the intermediate conditions. So we didn't really see the best of him last time out, but on the front row this time around in place of his teammate for this week. So, yeah, in place of Isma, who was on the front row last week. So Wouters up there, good to see, and Williams continuing their strong start to the season.
Yeah, certainly. Matthew Alder, though, with pole position, not a braking zone into turn number 1. We've got Avatar predicting here that we might get a first lap VSC. You never know with Silverstone. We could even get a full safety car as Xander going into that last place on the grid. What can the new signing for TF10 do? As we wait for the lights to come on here at Silverstone, we've got 5 lights. Quite a long hold then, but we are underway for the British Grand Prix. What are the starts like? Matthew Alder getting a reasonable start there, and Walters is going to try and get alongside on the run down into turn 1, and it is Walters who comes through that first corner in the lead, and he's got the inside line for Village as well. Walters in the lead of this race. Matthew Alder into second, but he's managed to keep his nose in there for the inside at the loop. The 2 lead cars battling side by side all the way through here. Who's going to get the better traction? We've got a yellow flag in the background. I believe that's for two Hassers who are struggling. Giel might have gone round, and now the slipstreaming battle starts. Walters on the back of Older, just has to slot behind as they come through Brooklyn. So it is Older, Walters, Hamilton getting ahead of Agiano, Asako, Isma there. Last week's winner trying to get alongside the Alpha Tauri, and I believe he's done so. Cornet and Lars moving their way up the order as well as we get the position changes up. Fantastic start from Xander. Isma on the inside of Asako. In the end, someone's going to have to yield. And further back, Corner yields on the back of Lars, and that's going to give Fusilio a fantastic chance to try and get ahead as well. But to go side by side through Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel is a brave move at any point of the race. Never mind lap one. Great defence though from the race leader. Matthew Older hanging on to the lead of this race, and I thought for a second Walters has got it, but Blizzard showing the fantastic skills that he has shown across many seasons here in PSGL.
Yeah, really, really good stuff as Brock now having a look down the inside of Asakoma Stowe, and loses the rear of the car. Well held, but he drops a little bit of momentum, and Max is trying to go down the inside of the next corner down at the Vale Club chicane, but Brock now has the inside for the club part of the chicane and through the final corner. I'm sure Max is going to have to back out of that one, and he does so. Brock just about holds on to 7th position for the time being, but that was a close call for the McLaren man. So yeah, really, really fighting lower down in the top 10. I think we're proving the point at the moment. They're really, really fighting, striking places. And Cornet's round. I don't know if that was help from Lars, but it looks like that might have been the case.
Yeah, I think we did see a car pull out. I think maybe just to go for a bit of a move into Village, which is a fair corner to give it a try. Cornet did it. I don't think Lars expected it to come. There was contact, and for the second week in a row, Cornet's been involved in some contact, which has sent him down to the back of the field. Thankfully for him, it did look like it was wheeled to side pod, so I can't imagine Cornet has got any damage, and was reasonably light, so I don't think it would have caused any damage to Lars as well. But being off the back of the train on the worn tyres, Cornet's going to have a bit of a job to do to climb his way up through the field. Matthew Alder's now started to stretch that gap up, using quite a lot of ERS at the moment to try and break it to 1 second, because he knows that Walters will be on the back of him. You saw the yellow fuel light just flashing there, suggesting that he's borderline on his fuel for the race. Once the wet conditions come in, we'll probably be able to save a tiny bit of that. But we've got an extremely long train at the moment, as Daneko right on the back of Xander, who's had a superb start to this race. 7 positions gained by the Alfa Romeo driver, as Ardapel Gamer looks down the inside of Daneko, not quite able to make the move stick.
Yeah, on those soft compound tyres at the moment, not really making the progress he maybe was expecting. He's trying the outside now through Vale and Club. It's a repeat of a lap ago with a few drivers further up, but I think Ardapel might have the higher ground down the inside of this corner. Daneko still on the left-hand side of the track, trying to keep alongside the Red Bull. They rub wheels a little bit on the way into Abbey, but Ardapel Gamer gets up into 14th position. He gains another place in this race. But yeah, Xander from the back of the field, a brilliant start for him on the medium compound tyres. Just looking back at that incident as well, it was actually Cornet going for the move on Lars and hitting into the side of Max's car in towards the village corner. That's what spun him around, but they've both gotten away by the looks of it with no damage. Cornet is onto the back of the DRS queue once again. Nikita at the back completely on his own.
Yeah, I think that's always the risk, especially in the early stages of the race. You can go for that move later on, and there won't be another car there. It was just, obviously, got the move done on Lars, but couldn't quite get stopped in time to avoid the Ferrari of Max, who would not have expected Cornet to be coming quite that heavy at the start of the race. We have got a 19-car DRS train there. You absolutely love to see it, and for the first time this season in the race, the drivers will be glad that they've actually had a chance to use the DRS after a full wet race, of course, last time around. Here's Philip Walters, about 6/10 of a second behind Matthew Alder. Ideally, you need to be within about 4/10 to have a real chance, and that's assuming that you are not in a DRS train, because even Isma, who was right on the back of Ogiano, can't do too much at this moment in time. Although I think they've nearly dropped Asakome on that lap, so that is where the split looks to be happening in this field. Can the top 5 get more than a second ahead of the Alpha Tauri?
Yeah, that is the crucial point in this race. Asakome really needs to stay within DRS range, because Asakome's honestly not that far away from dropping Brock on this lap as well. He's nearly 9/10 back as well, so it's starting to split in and around 5th, 6th and 7th place at the moment. That seems to be the tear in the DRS train. You've got to say, out of the front runners, Hamilton in 3rd, looking like the most racy at this point. He's tucked right underneath the Williams, but like you said, with the DRS train, just can't get a move done. He's got the most ERS out of anybody in this lead train as well, does Hamilton. In fact, Ogiano's pretty much identical on ERS as Nikita has retired in the pit lane, unfortunately, with a front wing damage. So he is now out of the race, sadly, is the Mercedes. We're down to one, who's currently in 10th place, has made up 1 place from his starting position of 11th. He's just now hoping for the rain to hold off for a few more laps.
Yeah, Gunter Steiner would have been taking his hair out there as Giel and Eagle got very close to making contact through Brooklands. There could have been some smashed doors there as Jack Eater leaves the session, perhaps. perhaps a bit understandable given the fact that we said how difficult it would be if you have to make a second pit stop around this circuit. The two Hasses are still extremely close together. One of the closest battles on track at the moment. Ardapel Gamer, another one. He knows he's got to try and make these moves in the next few laps while he's still got that advantage on the set of the soft tyres, because if he has to come in for a set of mediums and then we see the rain, any chance he's got of getting points is going to go out the window, but he's going to get it done down the inside into Stowe, and that is Ardapel up into 13th.
Yeah, up into 13th place, but interesting tactics there from Xander. Xander kind of just led him through. He turned his DRS off and let Ardapel through, and Ardapel with a little weave there, maybe in thanking the Alfa Romeo, but Ardapel wasn't really going to get the move done otherwise, so Xander's kind of just let the Red Bull man through for the time being, maybe just hoping that Ardapel can split the DRS train up a little bit in front and maybe make overtaking a little bit easier for those at the back of the field. At this point in the race, those a bit further down are going to be just hoping that they split up really at the front, or they start fighting in front so that holds them up, or they just split away so it's easier for them. It's a bit of a patient waiting game at the moment. Looking at some other people further down as well, second week in a row, Jensen's not had a great first lap. He's down to 16th from I think 12th on the grid.
Yeah, Jensen not having the greatest of first laps, 14th in the end, down into 16th. Biggest winners are Ardapel and Xander from the back row of the grid. They're now 13th and 14th. Corney, obviously with that contact, unfortunately for him, the biggest loser on the first laps, dropping 9 places. Isma right on the back of Ogiano there as they come through Copse. On the way through Village and the loop, Hamilton was perhaps a bit too close to Isma's teammate, Philip Walters, and just lost a bit of time heading onto the Wellington straight and couldn't really challenge the back of the Williams driver. And we are just seeing this DRS train really starting to frustrate some of these drivers. These might be the ones that think about an undercut, but with that threat of rain never too far away, as Philip Walters gets very close to the back of the Red Bull driver, it's going to be interesting to see. It is expected to come, we believe, between 15 and 30 minutes into this race. So you're thinking round about the end of lap 10, possibly all the way to the end of lap 20. That is quite a big window where we could start seeing the rain. And as Aiden said at the end of qualifying and this formation lap, there's no real guarantee it's going to rain hard enough for us to actually see the intermediate tyres, as Hamilton again right on the back of Walters, and the Williams has locked up slightly coming through Village and the loop, and that is a compromised line. This might be the best chance Hamilton's had, but he just cannot follow closely enough as they head onto the Wellington straight.
Yeah, it's struggling for traction at the moment, it seems, in the Alfa Romeo. He's got great top-end speed in that car. He's really, really fast in a straight line, but he's just not getting the traction out of the corners to be able to do anything at the moment. If he wants to go for an overtake, he's going to have to think about making the move somewhere else on the track. But the problem with doing that is that he then ends up compromising the whole DRS train behind, and you could get overtaken from someone behind. So, yeah, it's a real battle of things. And as I say that, Hamilton's unfortunately left the session, so it's likely that his AO car might just drop back down through the field now, which is such a shame.
Yeah, absolute disaster for Hamilton. Hope he has actually got a spare invite, otherwise he's going to get no points whatsoever. I was about to say Ogiano was very close to him before that disconnection. He's just going to plummet through the train. Absolutely cruel luck for the South American, having a few connection issues, and Isma's actually still pretty close to the back of Ogiano. Both the Williams looking racy all of a sudden at a racetrack where Williams has had quite a lot of success over years. Who will forget Mansellmania in the late 80s and the early 90s, but it is Red Bull Williams, Alpine Williams at the moment, Alfa Tauri McLaren, Ferrari McLaren, Alfa Romeo. I think soon it'll be a Mercedes or a Ferrari rounding out the top 10. Matthew Alder still in the lead of this race, the entire field separated by 8.5 seconds.
Yeah, really, really close, isn't it? Still everybody within that DRS train. We've not had a split in the train as of yet. And again, proving the point that the mediums are a solid race tyre at this point in the race. We're now up to 9th place. So he's doing a solid job at the moment in that Mercedes as Ardapel and Fede run side by side now. Coming onto the Wellington straight, Ardapel going for the move in a little bit of an unorthodox place, maybe at the loop. It's going to have the inside line for Brooklands, but that's not necessarily the best line. You can carry the momentum around the outside as Fede is trying to do, but Ardapel forces his way through and Fede has to give up the place. So Ardapel now up into 11th place now that they've passing Hamilton's AI car. So he's worked his way through slowly. He didn't have the best of first laps compared to the likes of Xander, but in recent laps he's been able to carve his way through the train unlike anybody else.
Yeah, certainly. Hamilton is now back in control of his car. 11 places lower than what he was, finding himself really stuck in a train. In fact, 12 places lower down than he was as Dan Irko just passes Hamilton. So big bad luck, unfortunately, for Hamilton. Hopefully, we'll be able to stay in the session. You never know, might still manage to get himself some points in this race as Philip Walters down the inside at Stowe there. Fortunately, we couldn't see the gaps, but we don't need to see that one. He's taking the lead of this race. Walters in the lead and that is Matthew Alder in second place. But with 94% ERS, he's playing the long game, and I think a lot of these drivers at the front are just taking things pretty steady at this moment in time. They know if they want to make some moves later on in the race, they're going to need plenty of battery.
Yeah, they are going to need it, aren't they, later on in the race? So that is a really smart tactic for Matthew Alder, maybe to just drop him behind and save it for the time being. Well, I say save it for the time being. He doesn't need to save anything. He's got he has got exactly a full battery coming out of the loop. That's really, really strong ERS management, considering the amount he used as well in the opening couple of laps to try and pull away. That is really great ERS management, and that's another maybe example of why the whole DRS train is keeping up with one another, because in recent laps it seems Matthew Alder's not been pushing to his maximum, so everybody's finding it maybe a little bit easier just to keep up for this time being. But it's now Wouter's turn to try and lead the train and see what he can do from the front of the field. Isma still trying to get his way through the field now, but Ogiana, his next target, trying to get past the Alpine. He's just not close enough at the moment. He's looking really, really racy. If this was a dry race, he'd probably come in now for a set of medium compound tyres and undercut, but we know that there's rain on its way.
Yeah, and of course that undercut, you'd be coming out in so much free air. You'd have about 20 seconds of free air to come out in, and you can see how he just loses out in the dirty air there on the back of Ogiano. Can't get close enough as Matthew Alder isn't going to go for the move on Philip Wouters. Decided to just stay behind for now. We were on board with Max Wiesel, who was also very close to the car in front, as Ardapel Gamers really siving through the field on this set of soft tyres. Started on them. He's up into the top 10. Fusilio's the only medium runner he's got ahead of him. Superb job by Benjamin at the moment. Maybe just those lap or two fresher softs, of course, giving him that grip for a bit longer. He's got a lot less ERS. He's definitely not saving until the end of the race. He's going for it now, and who can blame him?
Yeah, who can blame it? It's working so far, like you say, from 19th on the grid at the moment, now up into 10th place. It's gone through half the field in this part of the race. We're not even on lap 10 yet, so we're not at the point of the race where the mediums are going to be the faster tyre, of course. It's probably around maybe 11 or 12 where we'll really see that crossover in performance. We're not there yet, so Ardapel's still got a few more laps to play with these soft compound tyres, and Fusilio here could be a sitting duck maybe for the Red Bull man, who is just carving his way now through the field. All the other soft runners at the moment can't pass the other pair and the other soft runners around them, and it's now just starting to cloud over by the looks of things. So I was going to mention that it was still very, very sunny, but on this lap it seems to have clouded over a little bit more. So we're getting closer and closer to that window, but like you said earlier on, 15 to 30 minute window is quite big here because the race is so fast.
Yes, certainly it is, and I'd say at this moment in time, if you saw the weather looking out like this, you'd be confident going out without a jacket. You'd be feeling very comfortable indeed with the decisions that you made. Unless you're used to the British weather, then you might be second-guessing yourself. But yes, lap number 9, just about to go on the 10th lap here on the top tier on the PlayStation platform. And it is Philip Wouters leading as Ogiano into the pits then. He clearly thinks, or Jeff is telling him, that it's not going to rain anytime soon. But that last-minute decision to come into the pits might have been a bit too last minute. He's earned himself a 5-second penalty.
Very, very interesting. Hamilton's into the pit lane as well. Hamilton maybe a little bit more understanding. He's towards the back of the field, so he needs to try really anything to try and get back further up the field. But it's clouding over, and we know the rain is coming. So unless the rain is not going to come for a long, long time and they just can't get the softs to that point in the race, or whether the rain isn't going to come or isn't going to be heavy enough, I don't know. That, to me, seems like he's made a call a little bit too early, because nobody else seems to have reacted, as Max Whistle on the back of Brock trying to go around the outside of Brooklands, but Brock late on the brakes down the inside holds the place for the time being. Yeah, I feel like maybe Ogiana's jumped the gun a little bit there, because it is really, really clouding over now, and that could have been a really costly strategy call. Was running in a net third. He could have just blown his chances with points with that move.
Yeah, certainly. He has gone for setting the medium tyres, so that means if we don't get any rain, he does not need to come in again. Whereas if you'd gone for the second set of softs, you'd really be putting all your eggs in there. We're going to need intermediate tyres. But even in that one lap since they last came through, Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, you could see it is definitely overcast conditions here now at the Silverstone circuit. And Matthew Alder all over the back of Philip Wouters retakes the lead of this race and does the Red Bull driver, and is Isma able to follow through as well. Not on this occasion, and I believe it's raining. It is already raining here. That's a disaster for Ogiano and Hamilton.
That is a real disaster. Unless the rain stays like this and doesn't get heavy enough, that is race over for Ogiano and Hamilton. Unless there is a late safety car in this race, that is an absolute disaster for those two. Pitting a lap before the rain comes down. surely they must have known the rain was coming. We all knew the rain was coming. The fact that they're the only two that decided not to wait for it is a really, really bizarre move. So now we see how quickly it comes down and who can cope with the changing weather conditions. Ardapau in 9th, as per usual, looking very, very feisty up against the back of the Mercedes of Fusilio, trying to look for a move at the loop, but just wasn't close enough to think about a dive down the inside. Isma as well in 3rd, all over the back of his teammate. You've got to say Isma's looking like one of the fastest drivers, but just stuck in a train at the moment and can't go anywhere.
Yeah, and what's going to be interesting is the different tyre wear we've got between the drivers on a set of soft tyres, because Walters, his front left, is up at around 60% at the moment, so 2 or 3 more laps, you'd think he'll be heading towards that magic 75%, and once you're there, it can go pop at any time, and we've seen Lewis Hamilton drive a car around here on 3 tyres. I think even he'd admit he'd much prefer to have 4 on his car, but the rain not coming down too heavy at the moment. I've seen in another league around Singapore recently, where in the space of 1 lap, we went from dry conditions to needing a set of the intermediate tyres. Here, it's going to take a bit longer, but if it takes too much longer, things just go into the hands of the medium runners if we are going to get heavy enough rain at all. Cornet on the back of H-Eagle there, not able to make that move. I think now we are starting to get to the point where the medium tyres are coming into their own.
Yeah, it seems to be like they're the fresher, the better tyres at this point in the race now, don't they? They look a little bit more feisty than they were a bit earlier on. And looking at Fusilio's tyre wear, he is in a much better position than the people around him. So much stronger on those medium compound tyres. And yeah, if Philip Walters' tyre wear is true, then he will have a warning now on his dash for that tyre wear. It's going to be saying it's over 60%. He will be getting that flashed up. Remember, 75% wear is around the puncture territory for this game. He's only a few laps off at this point in the race from being in that range. So he's got to hope that the rain comes down. But at the moment, it is nowhere near intermediate conditions at this point in the race. I mean, in that first sector, Philip Wouters was only 2/10 slower than his personal best in the first sector. So we are nowhere near intermediate conditions at the moment. And Oggiano is, at the moment, I think, one of, if not the fastest man on the track. So if the rain doesn't come, Oggiano could have played a blinder. It's either a blinder of a strategy or an absolute disaster. It's nothing else.
Well, I think Jeff is suggesting to all the drivers that it is wet enough for the rain to come, because you can see that blue little pit window on the telemetry that suggests that a pit stop is due on every single car at the moment. So I think they're all starting to get towards the stage where the game might think that it's wet enough. But if we take a look at the lap time last time around from Matthew Alder, 1:29.6. His fastest lap of the race was a 1:28.9. Only 7/10 of a second slower than his fastest lap. This time we might get a bit more of a clue, but I can't imagine it being far off 1:31, 1:32 on this lap, and still nowhere really near the crossover point as he heads towards the finish line. In fact, 1:29.7. It's nowhere near wet enough for a set of intermediate tyres, so maybe Oggiano and Hamilton did do the right call by coming into the pits, because if it stays at this intensity, we might never see those.
Yes, Brock had a massive moment through turn number 2. I don't know if he got on the curb on the inside of the corner, but he just lost the rear and able to hold on to it. But Max is going to capitalise and go around the outside of the Aintree corner and onto the Wellington straight. Max has finally got that move done on the McLaren. He's up into 5th place, but that was a big moment from Brock. I don't think that suggests that the track is slippy, though. I think that suggests that his soft tyres are pretty much at the end of their life.
I mean, we saw earlier on, on lap 1 of the race, I think, from Brock having a bit of a moment through Stowe. And Silverstone, it is an extremely difficult track to set up for. Logic tells you with the high-speed corners that you need a lot of downforce on. You put a lot of downforce on. You're sitting duck down all the straights here. So it is very... You need a car that is right on the edge of losing the grip at any moment in time. The tyre wear is getting worse and worse for a lot of these drivers. Pretty much everyone who started on a set of soft tyres, with the exception of Ardapel and 1 or 2 others, are now in that territory where they're above 60%, and Ardapel's just showing a bit more pace on the back of Fusilio, but still can't quite get close enough to get any move done at the moment. And I still don't think the drivers have lost any pace on this lap, so we're going to keep carrying on and keep seeing them stay out on the circuit on the set of the slick tyres. What's it been from Matthew Alder this time around? 1:30.2, only half a second slower than he was the previous lap. And I think his Parnell Racing boss, Liam Parnell, esports driver in the chat, he'll be fairly happy with how his team's doing at the moment.
Yeah, doing a brilliant job, Matthew Alder. He's starting to stretch his legs now ahead of Philip Wouters a little bit now. The gap is 8/10, so he's just starting to up the pace. He looks a little bit more confident in these conditions. Philip Wouters just struggling to cling on to the back now. So, yeah, we're just starting to see them spread out a little bit. They're all still in a train, but the gaps are getting a little bit bigger. One person that's looking fast is Fede in 11th place on the back of Fabi for 10th, but not quite close enough. And again, as soon as the track gets a little bit slippy and there's weather interference, Fede seems to come alive, doesn't he? He's played a little bit of a patient game in the early phases of the race, but now he is pushing the back of that Ferrari for a spot in the points at the moment. Looking really, really strong at this point in the race, so we'll see what he can do. Still, Fusilio in 8th place, good on tyre wear, but he's not been able to make any progress. While the softs are very worn at this point in the race, those in the top 7 are doing a great job for the time being at managing those tyres.
Yeah, definitely. Fede only got 4 points, I believe, all of last season. He's got 6 already from his 5th place last time around, and he's hoping to get himself another point score here. Still, all over the back of Fabian, are not able to get close enough to make any moves on the reigning F2 champion, who did, I believe, in this tier last year, did not finish at Silverstone. Actually, it was Suku who took the victory in the F2 tier. H-Eagle took 2nd place, and it was Valters who took 3rd in F2 as Cornet now gets a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and Fede and H-Eagle are coming in. Let's have a look what tyres Fede's going to put on here in the AlphaTauri, because this is an interesting moment. The leaders have lost another second. It's going to be slick tyres on the Aston Martin, and it is going to be intermediates on Fede. We've got the first driver coming out on a set of intermediates, but Cornet's gone for mediums, and H-Eagle's gone for softs. I don't think anyone quite knows what's the best to go for.
Yeah, I don't think really anybody knows exactly what the tyre strategy is at this point in the race. But from the way the track looks, I don't think it's intermediates. I still don't think it is wet enough. The track is definitely greasier, a little bit more slippy. There is absolutely no standing water on the track or spray whatsoever. I think Fede has maybe come in just that little bit too early, and you can see, look at that behind him. Hamilton coming out of the pit lane, obviously pitted 5 laps ago, and Hamilton right on the back of the AlphaTauri. Hamilton here should just breeze past down the Wellington straight in towards Brooklands corner. We'll see how quickly Cornet and H-Eagle get there as well. H-Eagle on a set of soft compound tyres, if it stays like this weather-wise, could be very fast, because a fresh set of softs in these conditions is definitely a lot stronger than a fresh set of mediums. We are starting to see the raindrops on the track now, so it's getting towards intermediates, but I think Fede's still boxed just too early.
Yeah, and I think we've seen a few more runners come in now. Top 2 have stayed out. Almost everyone else behind them has come into the pits. We'll keep an eye out for any speeding penalties. Valters has got 78% worn tyres. I'm surprised he didn't pull rank and say, hey, my tyres are absolutely knackered here. I need to come into the pits. But no, he stayed out there. Lars stayed out, as did Matthew Alder ahead of him, and a few of the medium runners as well, as we got there H-Eagle and Cornet battling side by side, getting ahead of Fede. Brock and Ardapel coming for a set of intermediates. Most of the drivers who've pitted have come in for intermediates, apart from Asacombe. He stayed on a set of the medium tyres. This is fascinating stuff here. And again, they were a second slower on that last lap. A 1:32.633 for Matthew Alder. If you're Philip Valters, you can't afford to wait any longer. You've got to come in this lap. And I think now you've probably got to come in for intermediates.
Yeah, I think you have, really, haven't you? But looking at Fede's pace, Fede is not fast on those intermediate tyres. He's already 2.5 seconds behind H-Eagle. So it's still right on the cusp. I think these drivers have come in too early for intermediates, but they had to come in because otherwise the softs probably would have punctured. So they've not really had a choice, I think, at this point in the race. As Denerco already overtaken by Cornet, and now H-Eagle down the inside of Denerco in towards Brooklands gets the move done very, very easily. The Inters don't look like the right tyre for this point in the race, but those on the softs at the front had to come in for some sort of tyre change. Look at that, Asacombe down the inside of Isma. Ardapal's crashed out after such a great race for Ardapal. He's dropped it coming out of Luffield and hit the wall. That is his race over and done with. It was looking so good, but the Red Bull man is out of the race as Asacombe breezes past Isma through Cops.
Yeah, Asacombe working his way past Isma. Those mediums still working well. Matthew Alder and Philip Valters into the pits then. And what tyres are those two drivers going to come on for? It is intermediates for the Red Bull driver. And I've got to guess it's going to be the same Lars coming in as well. He's going to be in on a set of the mediums for Philip Valters. Fusilio's still staying out there on a set of the medium tyres here. Like we said, no one knows what tyres to go for. We're almost at the crossover point, but lap after lap after lap, we're just seeing drivers struggle on that set of the intermediate tyres. As you can see there, Asacombe's now 2 seconds ahead of Isma. Matthew Alder's gone for the intermediates. If he's called this right, this could well be the call that wins him the race. But if he's got it wrong, he's going to drop behind Valters and possibly Asacombe and some of those that have stayed out.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, isn't it? We have no idea what the right strategy is because, like you say, we are perfectly on the cusp of both tyres that neither one of them looks like the right tyre at this point in the race. Asicombe now into a net P3. Lars, by staying out an extra lap, has jumped all of those people that pitted for intermediates a lap ago. He's jumped past the likes of Brock, Dinerco. He's jumped Max Weasel as well. He's jumped Isma. By staying out a lap longer, he's overcut.
Sorry to interrupt you,
people.
Aidan. We've got Philip Valters here down the inside at Cops on Matthew Alder. Takes what could be the next lead of this race, but we are seeing the red rain light flashing on the back of both of these cars as H Eagle now takes himself a 3-second time penalty. Xander comes into the pits off his mediums. Is this going to be soft? Is this going to be intermediates? I can tell you it's not going to be full wets, hards or mediums, but the other two options are definitely still on the table as the front four drivers decide to stay out there and carry on. The intermediates have lost time on this lap, definitely, but we're now talking 1.5, 2 seconds a lap, not the 5-6 seconds a lap that they were losing when Freddie was out there, and it's clear for him, unfortunately, he definitely went too early.
Yeah, far too early. Now down in 18th is all Matthew Alder. My oh my, how on earth did he save that massive snap of oversteer through club, but he just about clung onto it. That was nearly both Red Bulls out of the race through that corner, but well played to hold on to that one. Look at Xander. Xander's come out in 9th after all of that. He's now in 9th place on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. If the weather stays like this or gets better towards the end, Xander could be in a really good position on these tyres at this point in the race. Cornet continuing to march through the field. Isma's now down to 12th. Isma was in a net 3rd place. He is plummeting through the field. Now Asicombe has passed Matthew Alder as well. I think at this point in the race, surely it was Matthew Alder's hit the back of Asicombe through Luffield. Asicombe just about holds on to it, but Matthew Alder bumping his way back past the AlphaTauri. That's not what he needed to do at all, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he has to give that place up because that was unfair.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's raining as hard as it was a lap or two ago. I think the rain's lightened ever so slightly. We might have seen the worst of it here, and Xander could be in an absolutely brilliant position. A man, former F2 champion, didn't win a race on the way to that title, didn't get a podium last season. He's in 9th place at the moment. Out of those that have pitted, he's in a net 4th position, and he's on a set of the soft tyres. DRS is still activated. Can he get down Asicombe? On the run down towards Stowe, down the inside goes the Alfa Romeo driver who started last. Xander is now in 8th place. Fusilio's coming to the pits. The Mercedes has put on a set of the intermediate tyres, as has Jensen. Fabian Gill are just staying out for two F2 graduates who battled for the championship this year. 8 laps to go. Answers on a postcard, ladies and gentlemen, as to who's going to take the victory.
I have. This is so difficult to predict as Fusilio comes out of the pits on the intermediate tyres in 6th position, make that 7th as Xander goes through on his soft compound tyres, but it's so difficult to say. The intermediates, obviously, we've still got the DRS enabled at the moment, so that's the real key suggester as to when the game thinks it's wet enough for intermediate tyres. We are bang on the crossover, I think, at this point, because through the first sector, Matthew Alder's actually gained back on Wouters ever so slightly. So is it crossing back to the intermediates now? But we know it's possibly going to get lighter towards the end of the race as well. So does it then swing back towards the dry tyres in the latter stages? It's so difficult to predict. All I can say at the moment now is Xander on those softs is looking strong, but he's not had the best of run out of Luffield. I think we are now in the point of the race where the two compounds of tyres are pretty much identical. It's just about who can cling onto the track the best at this point in the race. And Matthew Alder is all over the road. He's right on the limit of grip.
I think that might be the first sign, though. We've seen Max Wiesel get past Hamilton into Cops. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the first time we've seen an intermediate runner get ahead of a driver on a set of slick tyres. But that is Hamilton, who was one of the first drivers to pit on a set of the slick tyres. Xander still on the back of Matthew Alder. He's not losing loads of time, but he's not gaining. And if it carries on raining, even at this light intensity, as DRS is disabled, you can only think that it is going to go more and more towards a set of intermediates. Fabian Gill are into the pits. That is going to give Ogiano on a set of old medium tyres for leading this race. Walters is in second on new medium tyres. Matthew Alder on fresh intermediates is going to be in a net 3rd place. Xander's going to be in a net 4th on the fresh soft tyres, and he's got Fusilio all over the back of him. But I think now he is starting to struggle even on those softs.
Yeah, we're just starting to see the spray now. The spray is just starting to come into effect as Hamilton's retired in the pit lane, unfortunately, after that early disconnect. Yeah, it's just starting to cross over to the inside. Now look at Fusilio down the inside up towards Aintree, and Xander just can't put the power down. He's trying to squeeze the Mercedes to the apex of the corner, but he can't quite do it. Zander couldn't put the power down coming out of the loop, and now Fusilio down the inside gets the move done, unlike he was able to do in Portimao. Fusilio's completed the move, and now look at Matthew Alder. Matthew Alder's right back on the back of Wouters here. It's definitely intermediates now.
Yeah, it's definitely intermediates now, and it is definitely second position for Matthew Alder, straight down the inside at Woodcote. And you know what? I think coming onto the hanger straight, we're going to see him take the lead in this race. Asacombe, there was all sorts of chaos happening. Lars, Jensen, Giel, Asacombe, and I think a couple of other drivers all sort of converging on the same piece of track. Coming out of the loop, unsurprisingly, one of them had to come off worse, and it was, unfortunately for him, Asacombe. He is now in 15th place. What looked like quite a good race for AlphaTauri is quickly falling out of the window. Here's going to be a move, though, for the lead of this race. Oggiano in the lead of this race. Matthew Alder without the DRS. He doesn't need it. He's got the inside line. He's got the necessary grip on these intermediate tyres, and now he's got the lead and a clear track ahead of him with 6 laps to go as he looks to take the victory. Now, if you're Oggiano, Valters, and Zander, do you cut your losses and come into the pits for a set of intermediate tyres for the final few laps, or do you try and just hold on the slicks?
It's so difficult to say, really, isn't it? But I think they're just going to have to stay out and hope as now Fusilio down the inside to Abbey gets the move done, and he's up into second place. So him staying out on those medium tyres and going a bit longer before the rain came down has played beautifully for him. Up into second position now from 11th on the grid. And look at Oggiano just understeering through that corner as now Fabi and Lars are 3 white-haired corners retired in the pit lane. Fabi and Lars going side by side. Oh, around goes Zander. Zander's spun. So another driver that had worked his way from the back of the field has dropped himself out of contention through a spin. Down to 13th goes Zander. Lars is now battling Fabi for 5th place as they get now past Wouters in the middle of that as well. Giel's up there. Jensen's in there as well. It's utter carnage in the middle part of the pack, and now Giel's gone off the road.
I don't know where to look here. You've just got the mixture of the different pace of tyres just causing all sorts of problems. Fabi gets past Oggiano, and he is going to be in a dangerous situation here. Jensen's going to get ahead of him easily through Cops, and I think Isma's just going to sail past on the exit as well, so he's up into 6th place. Max will get through. We'll see Brock go through as well. Zander down at the back of the field. He might as well go onto the set of intermediate tyres as Lars is way off the circuit. Broken front wing coming through. That would have been coming through Beckett's. He lost it. Did he make any contact with Fabi? Because the two were close on together. And Lars has retired out on track. Naughty. He's going to get himself a couple of penalty points for that one. Absolute carnage.
I honestly, I don't know where to look. It's just so all over the place. It's now Brock gets past Oggiano, and yeah, Oggiano I think is just holding on, hoping to the fact that it dries up again towards the end, but I think he's just lost too much at this point in the race now. He's going to have to hope that it dries up almost instantaneously for him to be able to gain back the time he has lost. He was in the lead only 2 laps ago, and now look how far ahead Matthew Alder is in the lead of this race. For a brief moment, I thought Matthew Alder had lost this race on strategy, but it's fallen back into the palm of his hands again. And where on earth have Fabi and Jensen come from in this race? They were nowhere before the pit stops came around in the early phases of this race, and they're now running 3rd and 4th. As Asacombe now with the time penalty, Oggiano just continues to fall through the field. He's had a spin, I think, actually. Yes, he has. He's had a spin at the village corner, so his race goes from bad to worse.
I mean, let's not forget, I think at one point in this race, we were talking about Zander taking the victory. He's now down in 13th, just drifting his way around every corner as Valters drops down into 11th. That is all the runners who stayed out on a set of the slick tyres dropping down. As you say, Fusilio's gained 9 positions. Fabi's gained 9 positions, and that is a time penalty for Matthew Alder. It's a good job. He's more than 3 seconds ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely a good job. He's more than 3 seconds ahead, and that he's got loads of ERS in his back pocket, so he is still safe at this point. But that may give Fusilio an impetus to maybe push on a little bit more and hope that he can get within range and maybe steal the win off of him. Giel now with a time penalty as well. It's about the battle really now in this race for 3rd on the road. Can Jensen get a move done on Fabi? Isma again tucked right up behind another driver, but his penalty is going to cost him at the moment. And his early stop for the intermediates has not played out at all well for him. He has dropped from where he could have been. You think if he'd stayed out maybe 3 or 4 laps longer, Isma could have quite easily been in the lead of this race. That's how quickly it changed.
Yeah, I mean, Valters had the worst tyres, so I'm surprised he wasn't the first one to come in, and he went out on a set of the mediums. You've got to think, if Isma had stayed out 1 more lap and then maybe gone on to the intermediates, he'd probably be ahead of Fabi and Jensen roundabout now, and who knows, he could have been challenging Fusilio. But, you know, ifs and buts and all that, and with that penalty, he's going to find himself in some trouble anyway. He is all over the back of Jensen. Matthew Alder's penalty is of no concern whatsoever. He's now 5.5 seconds ahead, just streaking his way away. Just brilliant driving in these tricky conditions. It will stay like this until the end of the race. Valtters and Ogiano have come into the pits. They've just cut their losses, and that is actually another set of medium tyres there for Ogiano. That's a bit of a mistake. I'm thinking surely Valtters is coming out on intermediates. They might have thought that they were getting a 1-2 at some point in this race. Ogiano's now retired, and Felix Valtters, from a great qualifying, stone dead last.
Yeah, such a shame for Walters. I mean, give it 4 or 5 laps ago, it looked like he could have played a blinder on strategy, and he was in the lead of this race, but just not panned out for him in that way, sadly. Down to 14th place. It was a great showing in the first half, but yeah, the risk just did not pay off for him. It was worth the risk for maybe some people a bit further down, like Xander, who were just outside of the points position, so it was maybe worth the risk to go onto the slicks, but yeah, not paid off for them at all. And Fede, from pitting way too early for the intermediate tyres, is still somehow in the points.
Yeah, definitely. He'll put more wear on those intermediate tyres, but I don't think that will be an issue for him. H-Eagle's just going to streak up to the back of Xander soon, who's lost about 2 seconds in the last 20 seconds out on track. These softs seen 8 to 9 seconds a lap slower at the moment. Last time around from Xander, just going to try and quickly check here, it was a 146.6. It was a 136.1 for H-Eagle, who's going to get himself up into 11th, and never know, if there's another retirement, it could well be a first point of the season for the reserve driver. Isma still. Oh, he's gone off track. Isma's actually made a mistake. I was about to say he's all over the back of Jensen. Not anymore, he's not. He's behind Max Wiesel. Nearly loses out to Brock. That's cost him, well, 1 place because of the penalty, I think, because I don't think Brock was within 3 seconds at that moment in time. Big mistake for our championship leader. He drops down into 6th. As things stand at the moment, it would be Matthew Alder who would take the championship lead.
Yeah, really crucial mistake there for Isman. Of course, with the points gaps in, well, the points that were paid out inside the top 10 being quite small in comparison to what we get in real life F1. One small mistake and you can get punished very heavily. So, yeah, it's not been the best of races for Isma. He's had the pace, but he's just not been on the right strategy, and just a crucial mistake there at the end is costing him big time. And of course, Danerka's not out of the question as well. He's only a second away from the penalty range, and if Isma does get stuck in more traffic behind this battle for third, then Matt could hold him up and leave him vulnerable of losing to Danerka as well and dropping to 8th place in this race. So he'll be hoping that Danerka stays out for the time being out of that penalty range. Matthew Alder, though, in these wet conditions is sailing off into the distance. 7.5 seconds clear. He is country miles faster than the rest of the field in these intermediate conditions.
Yeah, certainly. I hope all 300 plus of you really do appreciate these viewing figures, guys, are enjoying this race. One man who is Matthew Alder, 7.6 seconds ahead, 2 laps to go. Just needs to bring it home for the final 7 and a bit miles around this circuit. Fusilio looks as though he's going to get his best finish in F1. Farby, in only his second race in, well, since returning, I believe, to the top tier, he's going to get himself a fantastic podium. And Ferrari looking good with Max Wiesel in 5th. And it's just Jensen in the middle of them. The reserve driver in the Alpine is going to be shooting his way up in the championship at the moment, and you never know, if a few more drivers can't make a few more races, might even find himself getting a full-time seat. He's in 4th. Brock, all over the back of Isma, is going to get that on penalties, and Danerko only half a second off the penalty range as well. Gill in 9th. He will get a point on his return to the top tier, but he is going to drop behind Fede, whose early pit stop definitely cost him 1 or 2 places. In the end, though, 9th, still a very reasonable result, as Jensen, we thought earlier on, might be putting Farby under pressure, but he's got his mirrors full of Max Wiesel at the moment.
Yeah, Max is really pushing at this point in the race, and Jensen, a bit of a mistake coming out of Cops, has put the Ferrari right on him. Of course, no DRS here, so it's all going to be about straight line speed and who's comfortable on the brakes. Jensen's going to have to go to the inside to defend this one. Max to the outside line up towards Stowe corner. Can he break all the way around the outside of the Alpine man? Late on the brakes. Going to go all the way around the outside. Would it be a lovely move if he can pull it off? What a move from Max Wiesel around the outside of Jensen there. Nice clean overtake, breezing around the outside in the intermediate conditions. Who said you can't overtake in the wet? That was lovely from Max.
What a move by Max Wiesel. The second most impressive thing I've seen him do around Silverstone. If you want to check out the most impressive, Google or go on YouTube and search Super Formula Pole Lap Max Wiesel and see how good the esports driver used to be back in the days in his real racing career. Absolutely brilliant move from him. He's now up into 4th place, and Jensen's starting to come under pressure from Isma as well. And surprising that Jensen's struggling, as he is on the fresher set of intermediate tyres. One man who's not struggling, though, Matthew Alder, 8.8 seconds ahead at the moment. Surely, barring, and touch wood here, no commentator's curse, hopefully, barring any mistakes it's going to be a brilliant first win of the season and take him into the top of the championship. Isma still challenging Jensen. I think he knows he's got to try and get ahead of the Alpine, because Daneker will be getting closer and closer to that penalty range, and that is not what he would want. He's going to lose at least one place. He needs to do everything in his power to avoid making it 2 places. But up ahead, Matthew Alder down the hanger straight for the final time. We had the rain come round about lap 10 or lap 11. We didn't quite know how long it was going to take to get wet enough. It took a good 8 or 9 laps. He lost the lead to Bolters. Then he was able to get back past him. He was able to get ahead of Ogiano. And Matthew Alder rounds Vale for the final time to come round Club to win here at the British Grand Prix. A superb race at Silverstone from the Red Bull. Matthew Alder wins. It is a podium for Fusilio for the first time in the top tier. He takes second place. Farby holds on to third. Brilliant 3-4 for the Ferrari team. Jensen is fifth. Brock is sixth. Isma seventh. Daneco loses out on 7th place by 82 thousandths of a second. Fede and Gill rounded out the points. Eagle, Asakelm, Volters and Zander. He tried to hang on the soft tyres, but he is really struggling now. He finished in 14th. How different it could have been for him if the rain had just come that tiny bit lighter, and how different it would have been for Matthew Alder. Formula 1 is a sport of fine margins, and it's the Red Bull man who takes the victory.
Yeah, brilliant stuff for Matthew Alder. Played it safe strategy-wise, stayed out a little bit longer on the softs, pitted a little bit later than everybody else for the intermediate tyres, went for the safe option, and it played out beautifully in his favour. Zander, yeah, like you say, 8 laps ago, Zander, we were talking about Zander for the win of this race. He's now nearly a lap down on Matthew Alder. That's how quickly it has changed for him in the latter stages of this race. What a shame for him and for Wouters as well, who were having such good races up until that point. But the risk can always bite you, and the risk did bite these drivers today. It just didn't work out for them. Those that played it safe really got the reward in the end.
Yeah, definitely, and I think if we'd have had one more lap, we could have had a very interesting battle. Farby had got within half a second of Fusilio, but Max Wiesel, his teammate, we've said he has previous around here in the real world about 10 years ago. Maybe one more lap, we could have even seen Max get his way up into second.
Yeah, I think it definitely would have been possible. I mean, the speed he had on those intermediates at the very end, and to get a move like that done on Jensen around the outside with no aid from DRS or anything like that is brilliant stuff in these kind of conditions. It's not that wet at all, so the intermediates aren't going to be performing at their best. So yeah, to get a move done like that and to get that quickly to the back of his teammate as well, what a performance from him.
Yeah, certainly. And Fusilio, driver of the day with that alternate strategy, possibly not too surprising about that one. And also, obviously, we saw Farby doing it as well, but it's Matthew Alder from pole position who takes the victory in this race. That makes it sound straightforward. I can tell you, it was anything but for him as he celebrates the win and, of course, taking that championship lead. Let's have a look at the provisional results then. It is Matthew Alder who takes that victory. Fusilio finishes in second. That's been 2 good races in a row from the Mercedes man. Farby getting his first podium in the top tier with 3rd place. Max Wiesel carrying on from last week with 4th. Jensen and Brock, the 2 reserves, 5th and 6th after 9th and 10th last time. Isma in 7th. Daneco in 8th. Fede, first man to take a risk on the intermediates, didn't pay off for him. He takes 9th place. Gill is in 10th. Eagle just missing out on points. Asacone got 12th with the fastest lap. And Volters and Zander, the 2 drivers who really did gamble it all, definitely not working out for them. Ogiano retired in the pits. Lars retired out on track after breaking his front wing. And we saw Cornet, Hamilton, Ardapel Gamer had an accident as well. And then Jaquita retiring in the pits. An absolutely superb race. Dominance from Matthew Alder. I think I've got to agree with Janef Wanaracer in the chat. Wiesel around the outside in the rain. Brilliant move.
Yeah, really brilliant move. That's got to be the overtake of the season so far. We'll have to wait and see if anybody can top that, but that was absolutely stunning stuff for Max in those conditions to get that kind of move done, and to get it done so cleanly as well. Fair play to Jensen for giving Max the room and allowing him to race around the outside. That was really great to see. And yeah, like you said, for Matthew Alder, on paper it looks like a boring race, but that could not have been a more chaotic way to get a pole and a win in the same night. Yeah,
definitely. He will take the championship lead, as I said, by a couple of points now, I believe, over... Just trying to do some quick maths here. I think it will still be Isma in... Isma, I think, will actually be tied now with Max Wiesel for 2nd place in the championship, so that Ferrari driver just showing the consistency that he needed. We're going to just hop our way over to the waiting room to get ready to chat to some of these drivers and get the interviews underway. And we'll start with the man who finished In third place tonight, we will start with Fabi. Congratulations. Great job by yourself. I think yourself and Fusilio just waited until the right moment to put on those intermediate tyres.
Thank you very much. What was the question?
Just basically, just tell us about your race and that choice to hold on as long as you did on the mediums.
Yeah, first of all, it was so freaking hard to keep the car on this condition on track. It was lucky that I pitted in the exact right moment when DS got deactivated, and I think I exited the pits on P5, and yeah, the drivers like Sander on slick tires and Wouters gambled wrong, and yeah, I was lucky. I'm happy. I'm speechless at the moment. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, definitely. Two very good races from yourself. 8th last time in Portugal. Third tonight at Silverstone. Must bode well for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, my aim is to earn points in each race, and that's in the first 2 races. I think I did a really good job, and I hope that continues in the next few races.
Well, if you drive like you did tonight, I can see no reason why it wouldn't. Aiden, do you have any questions?
I think I'm probably going to ask the same question to everybody tonight, but next round, of course, for this championship is Monaco, so completely different to what we've run so far. Is Monaco a track you like and you think you can succeed there, or is that somewhere that you feel that you're just going to have to pick up the pieces?
I think I can answer the question with one sentence. I don't like walls. They don't like me, and I'm super bad at track like this.
Well, there you go. That's pretty much the only question I had to ask. But congratulations on your third place. A really good drive from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations, Fabi. I'll let you head off and celebrate your podium. And we'll bring in the man who finished in second place then. Great job from Fusilio. Similar to Fabi, you just held on until the mediums, until it was the right conditions for the intermediate tyres. Were you tempted to come in earlier and maybe risk for softs?
Hello, guys. I was thinking between soft intermediates, but the track were too wet for the softs, I thought, and so I chose the intermediates. There was a lot of luck, of course, in the strategy, pitting the right lap and being P11 at the start, because that requires luck. I didn't aim P11. But I'm so happy. The strategy was simply perfect, and I thank the entire Outplay the team, because they helped me a lot during the race.
Yeah, definitely. Always good to have a great team backing you. Last season, you got 35 points. There's been 2 races so far, and you're on 17 already. Do you think you could possibly challenge for wins and maybe even a championship this season?
I wouldn't go that far. I definitely wouldn't go that far. I mean, thank you for these words, but my aim is to be as consistent as possible, to do as much points as possible, doing the maximum possible every race. The competition is very high, is extreme, is the maximum level on you can get on console. So wins, podiums. Of course, you always aim to the top, but with guys like Matthew, like Danirko, like Fabi, like Paxi, of course it's very hard. Today I finished P2, and I'm very happy. My first podium in Formula One PSGL.
Yeah, definitely. Great job from yourself, Aiden.
Yeah, I'll go on to my question then. Monaco for you, is Monaco somewhere you like, or are you the same as Fabi? Is it somewhere that you don't really enjoy?
I really like Monaco, but I don't think at all that I can challenge the top guys. If I get a few points, it will be more than enough in Monaco for me. But yeah, I really like the track, but I don't know where will I finish. I like the track.
Well, it's a rarity to hear that, as it's often usually a lot of people hate that track, but nice to hear that someone likes it as well. But congratulations on your second place finish, and congrats on another great race this season.
Yes,
thank you again, and I would like to thank the entire team again. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, certainly. Congratulations, Fusilio. A great result from yourself. There looked like there were many people who could take a victory today, but there was only one winner in the end. That is Matthew Older. I imagine that was a roller coaster of emotions for yourself. It looked like it was in your hands, then it looked like you'd gone too early on the intermediates. Were you always confident the track would come towards you?
When I went inters, I was confident track would certainly become inters, but it took so long. I thought I might come out behind Fusilo or the other ones who hadn't pitted yet, but they pitted a bit too late. So yeah, the inter started coming back just a little bit before, so still able to come out ahead of them.
You had brilliant pace on that set of intermediate tyres. We're pulling about half a second a lap on the rest of the field. Had you changed your setup slightly in qualifying to take into account the intermediate conditions, or do you just find that they suited you tonight?
No, I didn't make any changes. I just used my dry setup. So yeah, pace was just really good. I guess I don't really know why I pulled so much, but there's nothing to complain about. It was really good pace.
Yeah, definitely great pace from yourself. Aidan, your question?
I guess a couple of things for me then. Obviously, you're one of the championship front runners and one of the favourites coming into this season. I know we're only 2 rounds in, but who are you looking at the moment as maybe your closest rivals?
Probably, Isma definitely, I think he's got really good pace. It's just whether he can be consistent. He showed that he's got really good pace in Portimao. And probably Max, maybe. He just needs to get the good qualifying actual thing. He's got really, really good pace. He just needs to actually get them in the actual qualifying, and then I think he'll be my tyre rival as well.
Brilliant stuff. And then, of course, the one I've asked the other ones, how are you feeling about Monaco? Is it a track that you enjoy?
Monaco is terrible. I hate it. It's the worst track on the game for me. So, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do too well.
Well, by me then, that's a great opportunity for other people then to maybe close back into you. But congratulations on your win. Another great performance from you as well. Go and celebrate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, just now 19 drivers that have just cheered. I think we could almost hear it from here. Congratulations, Matthew, on your victory and taking the lead in the championship. That is pretty much it from this stream. And in case you haven't worked out what track it is next, as Aidan has been saying, it is the one, the only, the Monte Carlo Street Circuit, the Monaco Grand Prix. Always a challenge for the drivers. The most important qualifying session of the season.
Yeah, 100% the most important qualifying session of the season. It's so vital to have clean air around that track, and to be at the front of the field can be a massive opportunity for you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I personally adore Monaco so much, so I'm really, really excited to get to commentate over a race around Monaco for the first time in what feels like years at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I've actually commentated any races on Monaco on this game, so really looking forward to seeing what the top drivers on PlayStation can do. And if you want to see what the top drivers on the PC can do, you don't have to wait too long. Monaco Grand Prix will be there on Wednesday night. Can Shinaka Clay make it 2 wins out of 3 this season and extend his championship lead? Will we see Barry Borroman fight back? And can Jarno Opmeer really set his championship defence back underway? Lower PC tiers and the lowest PS tiers will be on the Thursday, middle PS tiers on a Sunday, with the top PlayStation tiers on the Monday, and then myself and Aidan commentated, of course, at 8 PM. Thank you so much for the drivers for joining me and Aidan for the interviews. Thank you to Aidan for joining me for what was an absolutely fantastic race here, and thank you so much to everyone who I hope really enjoyed what was a thoroughly enjoyable race. And we will see you in a week's time for the Monaco Grand Prix. It is Matthew Older leading the way. Will it be the same way around the streets of the Principality? Take care of yourselves, everyone, and goodbye.